Okay, Vapros, I'm going to ask you all questions also. I want to see how smart you devotees are.
You said about diplomacy, and but we can be honest only with devotees. Is it true that we can be honest only with devotees? Because
yes.
In material
I was
world,
talking about Vaishnava behavior. When you're dealing with non-devotees, you sometimes have to be diplomatic.
Why we are feeding our material body? Because it is not ours.
Yes.
We have some spiritual body. It consists of Maya.
You're feeding the material body because material body is a vehicle by which you can serve Kṛṣṇa and get purified. This body doesn't belong to you, it belongs to Kṛṣṇa.
How do we get spiritual body?
First you must ask, how do you get spiritually qualified to get a spiritual body? Yes, I agree. You get a spiritual body by first becoming spiritually qualified. So your next question should be, how do you get spiritually qualified? And you become spiritually qualified by following everything that we discussed in the lecture just now. And if you don't follow, then you can't get spiritually qualified. And then no spiritual body.
It is said that everything spiritual is eternal, and what is eternal, it never created. It's about spiritual body.
Once you get qualified, then you get it. By chanting and following regular principles, you'll get qualified.
His point was, as I understand, that how can we get a spiritual body? That if all the spiritual things are ever existing, so at least now it appears we don't have it. How is that?
Yes, it is eternal, but once you get qualified, then Kṛṣṇa will give you your spiritual body. Soul is eternal. Once you get the body, then it is permanent, but you can lose that body also.
What should we want to go to the planet where Krishna lives, or to have devotional service all the time?
Once you get qualified to go to spiritual planets, then Kṛṣṇa will give you the intelligence to how to serve him. Just like when you're in grade 2, you can't understand how to solve the problems of grade 11. But when you reach grade 11, then you will know how to solve the problems of grade 11. Okay? Yes.
Our Vaishnava scriptures, it is said that we should not read other books. So, how do has this some relation to this verse which we're discussing now? It's other books considered cultivation of Nisa and so.
Other books means outside Prabhupada's books and books from our Sampradaya.
The question is there any difference between Atma and Jiva?
No, Atma, Jivatma is the same thing.
The question is, what will be the result of suffering of living entity? It is said that due to suffering, the living entity will be improved. And in lections of different gurus, there are different opinions. That sometimes it is said that due to suffering, because of suffering, living entity will be improved. And for example, Suhotra Swami told that after suffering, when living entity will go to the hellish planet, his intellect will be degraded. Yeah.
So what's the question?
And the question, it seems to be contradiction.
No contradiction. The point is, your question is, what happens after suffering? So, there's no contradiction. I'll give you the simple answer. That is in the Bhagavatam. If somebody has done pious deeds in his previous life, then suffering will bring him to Kṛṣṇa. And if he does not have pious background, then suffering will not bring him to Kṛṣṇa. Why is it that one man in suffering comes to Kṛṣṇa and another man in suffering turns to the vodka bottle? Why did all of you come to Kṛṣṇa and the others in Riga are not coming? You want to know why? Because if you have pious karma behind you, then distress will bring you to Kṛṣṇa. And if you have sinful activities behind you, then distress will take you further away from God. I know people who have got into distress and who have completely given up devotional service in Hare Krishna. And I know people who in distress have made spiritual advancement. Queen Kunti says, Ipadu santu taha sashva tatra tatra jagat guru bhavat darshanam yat sayat apna bhava darshanam. She says, my dear Lord, please may my calamities increase more and more. Because the more my problems increase, the more I meditate at the lotus feet. And the more I meditate at the lotus feet, the faster will I get freedom from birth and death. In the Bhagavatam, there's a very nice story of Gajendra. You all know that story? How many people don't know anything about this story? Do you want to hear? I was thinking today of giving you a short class because my throat was a little bad. But it ended up becoming a longer class. So I'll tell you the story. So, Gajendra, he was an elephant. He was in the water playing with she-elephants. He had his feet caught in the crocodile's mouth. Now, Gajendra for 1,000 years was trying to pull his feet out of the crocodile's mouth. No success. The demigods were all watching the match thinking, now Gajendra will come to them for help. But Gajendra, he tried for 1,000 years to get his legs out of the crocodile's mouth. No, but he could not succeed. But in his previous life, Gajendra had been a devotee of the Lord. So he remembered only Kṛṣṇa can help him. And then he turned to Kṛṣṇa for help. So Prabhupada says in the purport that if one has done pious activities, then in difficulty he will turn to Kṛṣṇa. That's why when a devotee is in difficulty, he takes to Kṛṣṇa. And a non-devotee in difficulty, he takes drugs, liquor, illicit sex, so on.
Should devotee, help to some people who are in difficulties,
Natural catastrophes.
Yeah, natural catastrophes.
Yes, like when you had that earthquake in Armenia, we were doing prasad distribution. We should have, even in Riga, everywhere you can do prasad distribution if your facilities allow. All over the world. In America they do, in Europe they do prasad distribution, food for life.
And can we send some money to the fund, children funds?
No! What is the point in sending money to children fund if the children are going to be trained up in sinful activities? So how many devotees take part in book distribution? Books, books, books. Prabhupada always said book distribution is our most important activity. Not because book distribution makes any profit, but because through the medium of these books, the ignorance of the living entity can be destroyed. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed his disciples and associates to go and preach. Even Lord Nityananda was ordered, go and preach in every house in Bengal. Jai Dako Tahe Kaho. Kṛṣṇa Upadesh. About Kṛṣṇa. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established the mood of preaching. A Vaishnava is para dukha dukhi. That means when he sees somebody else in distress, he becomes distressed. Just like if you have pain, let's say on the toe, that pain will affect the whole body. You have pain in one tooth, it can affect the whole body. So similarly, a Vaishnava is affected as long as the others are trying to enjoy this material existence. Vaishnava's vision is, we are all members of the same family. Now people are saying, no, only these people are members of this republic. So this is one family, yours is different family, that is one family. No. This is not the Vaishnava's concept. They are all members of Krishna's family. In material life they have a philosophy. Misery loves company. If I am unhappy, I want to see you unhappy. If I am poor, I want to see you are also poor. One blind man likes to see everyone is blind. But that is not the Vaishnava philosophy. Vaishnava philosophy is everyone has to be made happy on the spiritual platform. The Vaishnava is always thinking, how can I send everyone back to Godhead? But you can only send others back to Godhead if you yourself go back to Godhead. If you can't go back to Godhead, how can you take others back to Godhead? Charity begins at home. So book distribution means letting Prabhupada and all the great acharyas go into the house of the Sergis, the Alexanders, the Valeries, the Ludmilas and the Urmilas, and letting them preach. Prabhupada said, as long as book distribution goes on, I will never die. And Narottam Das Thakur says, the Vaishnava never dies when thou art living still and sound, when you are living in your instructions. So these books are so powerful, Prabhupada said, even if somebody touches these books, he can get a human birth. Prabhupada had a great desire to see books distributed in your country. I know this better than anyone because Prabhupada personally spoke to me and sent me to your country in 1976 and 77 to do book distribution. Prabhupada was very keen that we put these books in all the libraries of Soviet Union, etc. And Prabhupada had full faith that the Soviet people are very intelligent. So once they start reading these books, then they will take to Krishna consciousness. The people of your country have the highest, your country has the highest literacy rate on this planet, even higher than America. And the people of your country are very fond of reading. And they're very fond of reading philosophy. And they do not have so much distraction like in the Western countries. In the Western countries, in every corner there's a naked nightclub and bar and so on. But in your country, these facilities are restricted. So, people when they're given these books, they read these books. Prabhupada said these books are so powerful. Even if somebody touches these books, he can get a human birth again. So this activity of book distribution is being executed by the most confidential devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So those who are engaging in book distribution, they have to go through so much difficulty. When you approach someone with a book, he's not going to say, "Good, Kharasho, this is what I was waiting for." 1 in 10 may say that, but 9 in 10 will say, "What is this book? Where is this coming from? Bhagavad Gita? I never even heard of it. Give me something by Pushkin or these philosophers, Tolstoy. The Bhagavad Gita, I've never heard of it." So, and Krishna, is this the same as Christ? You say, "No, how come I never heard of this?" So, when you go on book distribution, you have to depend completely on the mercy of Guru and Krishna. Krishna is in your heart and he's in the heart of the person you're approaching. So, if Krishna wants, he can make you sell 200 books in a day. 100, 1000, any amount. Krishna is in the heart of all the conditioned souls. So Krishna can inspire the conditioned soul. Every time you see a Hare Krishna devotee, please take a book. So Krishna in your heart, he is studying your sincerity. Just like when you pass through a garden, just by smelling the flavor of the flower, just by smelling the flower, you can identify which flower it is. So similarly, Krishna can identify what your desires are. So, as a Paramatma, Krishna is recognizing your desires, and when he sees that your desire is very sincere, then Krishna tells the conditioned soul, "Not take this book, don't argue. Pay him 25 rubles." And when Krishna sees that the devotee is trying but not so sincere, then Krishna will make you try harder and harder. Krishna will always make us try harder and harder. Just like you remember when all of you were children, and when you wanted to take something off a shelf that was on the top, then you would jump up, but you would be a few inches below the target. The next time you would jump up even higher, and by trying it few times, eventually you would get it. And then when you get it, you have a feeling of accomplishment. I've gained something. But if you get something very easily, then it has no value. So Krishna doesn't give you success easily. He'll always make you work hard. See how hard Prabhupada had to work? 25 years! Prabhupada was struggling, isn't it? So rest I'll give you tomorrow. This was only a trailer.
A trailer?
Like, when you go to see a movie, so they show you next movie to come in the city. So they'll show you a little bit.
Reklamny rolik.
Is that okay, Gadadhar? Tomorrow I'll give them more tips on book distribution. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Gopal Krishna Maharaj ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.